welcome to the Black Teacher Voice. I'm your host, Brittney Washington, and I just want to say thanks for joining me today. As I take you on this journey, I would like to share a little bit more about myself. I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, and I attended public education from elementary school all the way up until high school. I had some wonderful teachers, I had some not so wonderful teachers, a little bit of both. And I also was, very into education. Like, I loved going to school. I loved being a part of any and everything, signing up for after school programs and just doing a lot. So, ever since I was a child, education has meant so much to me. I attended the University of Toledo in Toledo, Ohio, where I got my undergrad degree in sociology and women and gender studies. And, that was really interesting because this whole time going to college, I was thinking, I was going to be a pediatric doctor. But those dreams shifted. And I think it's okay to know that dreams can shift and change. And, you're still able to be able to prosper in those areas. But all in all, all worked out, got out of school, and didn't know what I wanted to do. Um, I was thinking I wanted to become a social worker. I wanted to either go into education or, maybe even counseling. And I just had no idea. And so I had been trying to search and figure out what is it that I want to do. I strongly, at that time, strongly knew that my passion was working with children, but I hadn't taken any avenue really to kind of let me be who I wanted to be in the world of education. And so I decided to move out to Kansas City, Missouri, and start a whole new chapter of gaining my master's degree in education, along with learning how to become a teacher. This was all so new to me, and it was really a critical, pivotal moment in my life because I know that, when you have that passion and you really strongly are feeling like this is what you want to do, that when you actually are doing it, you feel like so happy to be able to be around children and be working with kids and doing so many different things in the classroom. So it's been so great. But there are also some moments that I'm like, you know what? I'm the only Black teacher around here. Or did they really just say that? Or, you know, are you really thinking that I'm not going to speak up and stand up for myself or my people? So I had a lot of moments that I've been, just so aware of that I know that I needed to be able to do something to create change. And so for me, being able to start off this podcast and share my thoughts and ideas and bring on other few, educators who are doing the work and being a part of something that's just so great to be able to create this space has been my mission and my goal. And it's definitely something that is leading me in the path of creating change no matter what. So today's topic on the Black Teacher Voice is let's start with the why. So when thinking about starting with the why, let me just give you a little bit of, teachable moment here. Let me give you a little bit of teacher talk. So why is the meaning of why is for what or for what reason? What's the cause? What's the purpose, right? So starting out with the why, there are 3.7 million. Let me say that again. 3.7 million teachers in the United States of America. I'm just going to let that sink in for a second. 3.7 million teachers, and about 7% of them are Black teachers, and less than 1% are teachers that are Black that are males. So when I think about the release date and releasing it on 7/7, this 7% has been on my mind for quite some time of just like, there are so many dope and amazing, just amazing educators who are Black out there doing some wonderful things. But to think that only 7%, it amazes me. It just blows my mind of how much more work we still have yet to do. Um, and just thinking about the difference between, I know I work currently in a private school, and I've also worked in public schools, but thinking about 7% in public schools, but then way less than that at 3% in private schools. And so Black teachers matter. And this is my why. This is one of my top reasons of why. Because 7%, it should be a higher number. I mean, I think that there is so much that we can do in that 7% to continue to encourage other Black educators to get into this field of education. Black males, Black women, just being able to get out here and be representative, and representation matters. It's another big thing and big reasons of why I wanted to start this podcast. Because I have been in spaces where, I was the only teacher who was Black, and thinking about, how people looked at me and how I looked at them, and, how students looked at me, and how, just the atmosphere and the dynamic within a school definitely plays a big role into how you feel as a Black educator. So when thinking about how Black teachers' voices are oftentimes unheard or silenced or left out, I think about decision making. How many times has somebody asked me to come to the table with being able to give my input or share my ideas, or thinking about just leadership experiences. I've been through some experiences where, a Black teacher was not offered that first position. And knowing that they brought so much expertise and being able to really shed light on this system that has been so broken and just systematically set up in a way that does not uplift our Black educators. Thinking about intimidation, when you walk into a room, so many people are intimidated by you as a Black teacher. And so with that intimidation, it's almost like you're doomed before you even get started, you know? And I have found that it's been so hard to just try to put yourself out there when you already know sometimes what the end result is. But then I had to stop being that way and put it out there that, you know what? No, this is my idea. This is my intellectual property. This is what I want to do. And if I'm in an area or a space or a school that is not about that life, then it's time for me to go. And I think that's something that teachers have to go through and think about as they're, thinking about their journey and what they want to do and the creativity and innovation that they bring just to the classroom each and every day. It's another reason why. When thinking about my podcast, I sat on this idea for such a long time. And it's not that I didn't have the support. I had always had the support that was there. But it's just thinking about how hard I work as a Black teacher in the classroom and thinking about, my goals for my own personal journey. But I had to recognize that I have to keep moving forward. I have to do these things to be able to get others to hear my perspective, my Black voice, my experience, because that's my story. And it's not every Black person's story. It's not every Black teacher's story. But being able to create a space for Black teachers to be able to share their experience, to share their thoughts and their ideas on these major topics that everyone in the world of education is seeing. They know that this is a problem, but it's like, no, where are the change makers at? And I know it's so many Black educators out here that are doing the work, being change makers, being creative in it. But I always come back to that number of 7%. 7%. It's got to be more. It's got to be more. Um, and we need our Black teachers' voices to be amplified, to be put out there, to be put in many different platforms, to be able to create this change, to be able to have, your white counterparts stand up and say, no, this is not cool. This is not what we stand for. And to be a part of an allyship, to be a part of this change. I find myself being in a situation where I've had to make decisions that were better for me, but thinking about, those families and those students and, my other colleagues, just how much of a role that I play as a Black teacher and how we need more to be able to put out there that there needs to be something different. Um, these policies, these procedures, these systems that uphold this white culture, it's got to stop. We've got to get change. And I think that even more now than ever, it's just on blast. We are standing up. We are letting people know that change needs to happen, but it's not on us and only us. But we can play such a critical role in sharing our story, getting our voices amplified, and being able to get that message out there to the world is something that is majorly important in education today. Um, Advocacy, advocating for myself, advocating for future educators of color, our Black teachers, um, and knowing that we need to be able to have some retention there, being able to retain Black teachers. Because after a while, I know I've said it a million times, like, I don't want to be in the classroom for a long time. I need a change of pace. How many years do you have to put in before you really start to see, this shift? And it's something that's been on my mind. But being able to advocate for ourselves, I know that it's going to take some work. It's going to take some time. It's going to take a lot of effort on a lot of people's part. But I just want us to think about what are some things that we can do to be able to create this change and to be able to stand with Black teachers in this work. So that's my why. But I would, encourage you to think about, what is your why? Why are you an educator? What can you do to be able to shed light on getting Black teachers' voices heard, getting their voices amplified? I know I keep using this word amplify, and to me, it just speaks so much more greater and power and uplifting and that strength that needs to be done. The work needs to get done. And so on my future episodes, I will be inviting, future Black teachers that are going into the field of education. I will be also inviting teachers that have been doing this for a while, principals that have also been creating change and doing a lot of important things in education, because it's important. We need it. And I would strongly encourage you this week to reflect on this word, amplify, to expand by the use of detail or illustration or a closer analysis, to make larger or greater, to increase the strength amount of, to make louder. This week, ask yourself, what can I do to amplify the Black teacher voice in education? Thanks for joining me.